This person just captured the most shocking thing crawling out of the river. And that revealed a world of extraordinary things. Creepy crawlers, strange sightings, and downright chilling encounters. These are the scariest things that crawled out of Earth.
It's looking right at us.
A wildlife researcher moving carefully along a mudflat stopped when he spotted something resting on the exposed bank ahead. Long, pale body, a full row of tall orange-tipped spines running its entire length, fanned wide and catching the light. He raised his camera slowly and held himself completely still. Then it noticed him. Its body snapped into motion immediately and drove itself across the mud at a speed that left him no time to react, hit the water cleanly, and disappeared beneath the surface. Bayou Screamer. A fisherman along a remote Louisiana bayou spotted something standing among the flooded cypress trees. The figure was unusually tall, standing fully upright in water that reached its knees. Its arms hung low at its sides, far longer than they should have, swaying slightly as it made its way through the swamp. Not once did it appear to notice the fisherman hiding behind the reeds. And then the creature let out a scream. The fisherman immediately dropped lower into the reeds before slowly backing away. Gutter monster. A group of urban explorers were deep inside an abandoned drainage tunnel when one of them noticed movement further ahead. The camera turned just in time to catch it. Pressed against the wall was a hunched figure crouching in the darkness. Its limbs looked thin and twisted, almost folded beneath it. But what everyone noticed immediately was the light. A single glowing orb pulsed from the center of its head. It charged straight down the tunnel with terrifying speed, letting out a scream as it closed the distance. The group scattered instantly. The footage ended before anyone found out how close it actually got. Mysterious river creature. A kayaker traveling through a river in the Pacific Northwest came around a bend and found something sitting directly in his path. Resting in the middle of the rushing water was a huge black mass covered in thick rope-like tendrils. The surface of it looked rough and tangled, almost as if several creatures had become twisted together into one enormous shape. And here's what made the sighting so unsettling. Rivers that fast push everything downstream. This beast moved upstream. The kayaker kept his distance and watched it disappear further up the river. River dweller. A farmer walking along the edge of his land near a remote South American riverbank noticed something ahead of him that immediately made him stop. Crouched in the mud was a figure that looked almost human from the waist up, but below that, its body seemed to blend directly into the riverbed itself. It was difficult to tell where the creature ended and the mud began. Keeping his distance, he quietly filmed from behind the tall grass as the thing crawled toward the water on all fours. Then, without warning, it stopped. The creature slowly turned its head toward the tree line and appeared to stare directly in his direction. Seconds later, it slipped into the river. Mud crawler. During a torrential downpour in the rainforests of Borneo, a villager cutting through the jungle heard violent splashing somewhere ahead. Expecting to find a trapped animal, he pushed through the thick vegetation and looked into a flooded clearing. What he saw instead stopped him in his tracks. Moving through the mud was a huge gray-skinned creature with a bulky body and thick limbs that dragged heavily through the waterlogged ground. Honestly, given the size of the thing, staying hidden from it was the right decision. River cluster. A local standing on a ridge above a swollen Colombian river during flood season noticed something strange moving through the muddy current below and immediately pulled out his phone. 5 dark, rounded shapes moved together through the river in a loose formation, each one keeping a steady distance from the others as they were carried downstream. It wasn't random drifting either. There was a strange consistency to their spacing, like they were moving with intention rather than being dragged by the current. Estuary breaker. A ranger patrolling the muddy edges of a Patagonian estuary noticed something half buried in the shallow water and stepped closer to investigate. The surface was covered in pale, dome-like scales, arranged in a repeating pattern that didn't match anything he had ever seen in his field guides. It looked almost geological at first, like stone shaped by time rather than something living. He crouched down and grabbed hold of it with both hands, trying to pull it free from the mud. That was when it reacted. The entire mass suddenly came alive, thrashing with violent force, sending water and mud in every direction. Dock wings.
Did you see that? That's coming out of the water. Those eyes!
Two villagers heard repeated splashing beneath a narrow wooden dock in the dark and made the decision to go and look, which is where this story takes a turn most people wouldn't recover from quickly. They pointed their phone light toward the water and something began to rise out of it. Wings. Not feathered but segmented. Long, thin extensions branching outward like fingers, unfolding slowly and dripping as they lifted. Its body was pale, its head hung forward, and the features of its face were not arranged the way a face should be. Then the footage cuts.
Looking right at us.
Russian mudflat. A hunter crouching quietly in the reeds along a Russian riverbank spotted something across the water that kept him absolutely still. A dark-spined creature was working the mudflat on all fours, driving its hands into the wet bank repeatedly and pulling them back out, methodical and focused, like it knew precisely what was buried beneath the surface. Its dorsal spines fanned wide across its back with every movement. Russia's vast river systems, particularly across Siberia, run through some of the most ecologically isolated terrain on Earth, where large undocumented species have been reported for centuries by indigenous communities whose accounts were never formally recorded.
Feeding. It knows exactly where to dig.
Appalachian Creek.
Pretty out here.
Something had been using that rock in the middle of the stream for a while before this trail runner came through. Broad, armored, low to the ground, built like something that predates most of what lives in those mountains today. It sat completely still until his footsteps reached it, then it was gone. The Appalachian Range is one of the oldest mountain systems on Earth, carved out long before most modern species existed. What's lived quietly in those creek beds through all that time is a question very few researchers have thought seriously enough to ask. Mysterious terror. A man filming the shallow water off the Colombian coast from the bow of his boat caught something passing directly beneath the hull and coming out the other side. Pale torso, arms extended forward, long dark tail moving in slow vertical strokes just beneath the surface. The water was clear enough to see every detail against the sandy bottom as it glided ahead of the boat without any apparent awareness of being watched. He posted it the same day with one question. The comments section argued for hours and never landed anywhere. Some questions don't get answered, they just accumulate views.
Espere, ¿qué es eso? Hay algo abajo. Oh, muévase.
Shocking behavior.
¿Estás viendo? Está tirando caña al agua. Espera, mira eso.
This footage off the Norwegian coast raises questions that go well beyond what the creatures are. Four dark figures climbed out of the churning surf and crawled across the wet rock toward a man standing at the center of the formation. Long clawed limbs pressing low against the stone as each wave broke behind them. Gray bodies, deliberate movement, closing in from every direction. But the man never moved back. He stood completely still and directed them with gestures, calm and measured, as if this was not the first time. They gathered around him without aggression, responding to each signal he gave.
¿Por qué la está alimentando?
Mudflat horror. A fisherman working along a remote stretch of Indonesian coastline was scanning the mudflats when something began rising from the shallow water directly in front of him. At first he thought it was a large fish surfacing. Then more of it emerged. The creature had a broad, dark head, unlike anything he recognized, with features that looked almost fish-like, but somehow wrong. As it lifted higher above the waterline, its mouth opened wide, revealing rows of sharp, bone-colored teeth packed tightly together. The fisherman stood frozen, watching as the creature remained there long enough for him to get a clear look.
To get that.
Creature rising. Is it just me, or does this thing look like a hairy witch creeping out of a murky river? This unusual sight was caught somewhere in the Amazon River, but the truth is far from unusual. We all know sloths to be slow, but they are 3 times faster in water. But a soaking wet sloth coming out of water makes them something you don't want to witness when you're alone in the forest. Buried flesh. A construction crew working on a clogged drainage ditch in rural Indonesia uncovered something solid buried deep beneath the mud that none of their tools could properly break through. One of the workers cleared away the surface layer and revealed a large mass of grey, barnacle-like flesh packed tightly inside the channel. The worker pushed his shovel into it to clear more space and exposed what looked like part of a massive jaw. The entire crew stopped immediately. No one went back to digging that day. Lake witness. A diver exploring a freshwater lake in Eastern Europe switched on his underwater camera and immediately caught sight of something that made him hesitate. Ahead of him, standing on the lake bed, were 2 tall, pale figures, long-limbed, hairless, completely upright, almost positioned like they had been placed there rather than arriving naturally. Between them moved a smaller creature, glowing faintly, drifting at knee height as if it belonged in their space. Harbor rise. Dock workers at the port of Long Beach brought operations to a halt when something enormous began rising out of the water between the container ships. It didn't surface like a vessel or debris. It simply lifted up slowly, occupying space where nothing that size should have been able to fit. From the dockside, it towered over the ships, motionless against the fog-heavy sky, making it difficult for anyone to properly judge its scale. Within minutes, the situation escalated. The Coast Guard shut down maritime traffic, helicopters were deployed overhead, and an exclusion zone was established while federal teams moved in. Fjord entity. A coastal photographer capturing the lava rock shoreline of Iceland from an elevated position noticed something pale lying across the black stone below. At first, it looked like debris washed up on the rocks. Then it moved. The shape resolved into something far more unsettling, a pale white form with a human-like upper body and a long tail that split into 2 fin-like ends. Without any struggle, it allowed the incoming water to take hold, slipping into the sea and disappearing beneath the surface. Tide crawler. A group of beachgoers along the South African coast suddenly stopped when something dragged itself out of the surf and onto the sand right in front of them. The entire beach broke into panic, people running in different directions as the creature started moving toward them across the wet sand. Philippine pool. There are places in this world that don't want to be found, and this hiker in the Philippines found one anyway. Pushing through dense jungle, he stumbled onto a moss-covered stone pool tucked behind ancient ruins, completely hidden from the outside world. What was resting in the shallows stopped him cold. 4 figures, tails catching the light beneath the water, sitting completely still in the quiet. The moment he moved forward, they all slipped under the surface at exactly the same time. Actual Nessie? Loch Ness has swallowed more stories than it has ever given back, but every so often something rises close enough to the surface to make you question everything you've been told. A man standing at the water's edge trained his camera on a shape moving through the chop and held it there. It stayed mostly beneath the surface, but a tail broke the waterline every few seconds. Scary marine encounter.
Look, it's eating.
A marina worker, closing up the docks on a grey New Zealand evening, wasn't expecting company, but something was already sitting in the shallows between the moored sailboats when he got there. Dark, broad, lizard-like, holding itself upright on the wet sand with its head tilted back and its mouth stretched wide open toward the sky. It just held that position, completely still. Unbelievable sighting. A group of locals walking the edge of a shallow river in Bangladesh spotted a dark shape moving across the mud flats and stopped to watch. Easy enough to write off as flood debris at first, until it changed direction entirely on its own. No legs visible, no fins, nothing that should have explained any movement at all, yet it pulled itself forward along the riverbank.
I don't understand what that is.
Classified pool. This footage was never meant to leave the building it came from. A leaked security feed, no timestamp, no facility markings, showed three dark figures thrashing inside a large circular containment tank at what was clearly an industrial research site. Personnel were visible along the perimeter, watching from a careful distance, which tells you everything about what those figures were considered capable of. The person who leaked the footage never came forward. The facility has never been acknowledged by any government, and those three figures are presumably still in that tank somewhere. Mystery in Brazil. A wildlife photographer spent a full hour crouched in the reeds along a Brazilian riverbank waiting for something worth his time. What rose out of the brown water directly in front of his lens was worth far more than that. A massive tail, wide and heavily textured, overlapping ridges running its entire length, lifted slowly above the surface and just held there, long enough for him to capture every detail clearly. Brazil's river systems are home to creatures that science is still formally cataloging. Ganges creatures. There are things living in the Ganges that have never made it into any field guide. The face and upper body of a newborn infant, a vivid blue scaled tail no larger than his fingers, still alive and still moving. He held it long enough to film it properly, which takes a particular kind of composure most people wouldn't have in that moment. Then he placed it back in the water and watched it sink. Perhaps some things in that water have always been there, and we are only now getting close enough to see them. Backyard plesiosaurs. A homeowner in rural Thailand had been living alongside something extraordinary for months without knowing it. A small tarpaulin pond in his backyard, ordinary enough on the surface, turned out to be occupied by two creatures large enough to fill most of that space between them. The first moved through the cloudy water with the slow, heavy deliberateness of something that belongs to a much older world. The second lifted a long, scaled neck above the waterline and held it coiled there, its body pressed tight against the bottom. What makes this footage genuinely difficult to dismiss is that the shape of both creatures matches the plesiosaur, a marine reptile believed extinct for 66 million years. Norwegian anomaly. Workers at a Norwegian fish market were spreading out a fresh catch across the processing floor when something in the pile decided it wasn't finished. A long, grey, muscular creature twisted itself free from the mass of fish and went across that wet floor at a speed that sent every worker jumping back against the walls. It hit crates, scattered fish in every direction, and cleared the space around it before anyone got close enough to intervene. Norway's deep coastal waters are some of the least explored stretches of the North Atlantic.
Watch your feet! Get it off the deck!
Breakwater figure. A man walking the rocky breakwater noticed something pale moving just beneath the grey surface and pulled his phone out before it could get away. What he tracked along those rocks moved through the water with a fluid, continuous motion that no human swimmer generates, its tail visible beneath the surface with every stroke. He followed it for the full length of the clip before it disappeared into deeper water. Lisbon Harbor creature. A harbour worker securing lines along a storm-battered pier in Lisbon looked down into the churning water at exactly the wrong moment, or perhaps the right one. A dark figure was moving fast through the waves directly toward the underside of the dock. It reached the wooden pylons and slipped underneath the structure without slowing.
Están golpeando duro.
Saudi Jinn. There are encounters in this series that are frightening because of what moves, and then there are ones like this, where nothing moves at all, and that turns out to be far worse. A man hiking through a forest in rural Saudi Arabia followed a trail into a waterlogged clearing and found a creature crouching in the mud directly ahead of him. Grey humanoid face, body low to the ground, completely still, staring straight at him without blinking once. In Islamic tradition, the jinn are beings created from smokeless fire. Maldives escort. Tourists on a glass-bottom boat off the Maldives gathered at the rails when the guide pointed down alongside the hull. Just beneath the surface, a large, pale shape was keeping perfect pace with the boat. Its form blurred by depth but defined enough to rule out anything the guide recognized from 15 years running that route. It wasn't crossing their path. It was traveling with them, matching their speed without any visible effort, as if the choice to accompany the boat had been a deliberate one. Vietnam creature spotted. A farmer working the irrigation channels of his rice paddy in rural Vietnam grabbed onto something beneath the muddy water and made the decision to pull it free. What came partially out fought him with everything it had: broad grey body, 4 clawed limbs driving into the mud with genuine force, a tail thrashing the surface into white water. He repositioned his grip twice and threw his full weight backward, and the creature matched him pound for pound, pulling in the opposite direction without tiring. Creature of South Carolina. A boater navigating the coastal waterways of South Carolina cut his engine when something massive at the edge of the marsh grass stopped him cold. It had a broad, domed body covered entirely in dense brown spines fanning outward in every direction, crouching at the waterline with its face buried in the grass. He drifted closer with his camera running and watched it push itself off the bank and sink beneath the surface without making a single sound. Okavango hands. A driver pulling off the road at dusk along the edge of the Okavango Delta in Botswana filmed something through his car window that has no clean explanation. The creature had the broad-scaled body of a large fish, but it was moving through the shallows using 2 distinctly human hands, pressing them flat against the riverbed and dragging itself forward with each stroke. Slow, deliberate, completely unbothered by the fading light or the idling car watching from the road above. The Okavango is one of the few inland river systems in the world that floods away from the ocean, creating a landlocked delta of extraordinary biological complexity.
Do you see that? It just pulled something out of the mud.
Glacial wingspan. A couple kayaking across a glacial lake in British Columbia spotted a white figure standing motionless in the shallows near the far shore and paddled toward it without fully understanding what they were closing in on. It stood completely still, draped in long pale strands hanging from its outstretched frame all the way down to the waterline. As their kayak reached a certain distance, it spread 2 enormous wings to their full span and held that position in total silence, facing them directly across the water. The glacial lakes of British Columbia sit in some of the most geographically isolated terrain in North America. Classified footage leaked. Someone walked into a facility they weren't supposed to be in, pointed a camera at something they weren't supposed to see, and got out as fast as they could. Inside a large water tank, dozens of humanoid figures were moving through the water together, tails breaking the surface repeatedly, bodies pressing against each other in the confined space. Not one of them was alone in there. The footage raises something beyond the obvious question of what they are. Someone built that tank, someone designed it to hold that many, and someone has been maintaining it long enough that there are dozens of them inside it. How long that program has been running is something no authority has come anywhere close to answering. Pond visit. Whatever this creature came to that pond for, it wasn't water. It crouched at the edge, with its arms reaching below the surface, working deliberately, pulling at something specific from beneath rather than drinking or washing. Then it had what it came for, and it moved, straight into the brush and completely out of sight in seconds. The pond kept rippling long after it disappeared. That kind of purposeful behavior, knowing exactly where to reach and what to take. Indonesian jaw. Deep in the Indonesian wetlands, locals pulled something out of the water that had no place in any field guide. Dark body, translucent fangs, a single milky eye scanning frantically for a way out of the container it had been dropped into. It snapped repeatedly and threw itself against every wall it could reach. Indonesia sits across the Coral Triangle, the most biologically diverse marine region on the planet, where new species are formally documented every single year. But this came from freshwater wetlands far inland, which makes the deep-sea adaptation of those fangs and that eye considerably harder to explain. Mysterious hiker encounter.
Oh my god.
A hiker paused near a secluded waterfall and caught movement at the rocks beside it before his eyes could make sense of what he was seeing. Dark, low, huddled at the water's edge, its shape absorbed into the shadows and stone just enough to keep it unclear. He zoomed in, and it shifted, subtly, the way something shifts when it decides it has been seen long enough. Then the rocks simply had it back, and it was gone. Canyons with active water sources create year-round shelter that most large predators and undocumented species actively seek out. Whatever had settled beside that waterfall had picked one of the better hiding spots in those hills.
Oh my god. What is this?
Unexplainable creature.
Look at you. Easy. Easy.
A man walking the coastline nearly stepped past it without looking down. Something alive in the shallows, small enough to scoop into a glass jar. But the moment he got it inside and held it up to the light, small stopped being the word that mattered. Humanoid torso, dark shimmering tail, wide eyes tracking him through the glass with a focus that didn't feel like panic. It bared rows of needle-sharp teeth and moved restlessly against every wall of the jar, not frantically, but deliberately, like it was measuring its options. He filmed it long enough to capture every detail clearly. Then he walked back to the tide and released it. What stays with most people watching this footage isn't the creature's appearance. It's the moment it realizes it's free and doesn't immediately flee. Time for today's open discussion of the day. In 2021, some men in Vietnam went to the Mekong Delta to hunt snakehead fish, but ended up finding something else. In the distance, a massive brown creature crawled out of the swamp. It looked like a gigantic cryptid with slow movement and long curved claws. It turned and crawled into the trees, leaving them confused about what they had just seen. What do you think it could have been? Comment below.
One evening, a woman was waiting for her husband because her dog was acting very strangely. Its eyes looked red, and it kept staring at the wall. Even worse, its whole body was shaking, as if it was terrified of something that was not there. It barked, looked at her for a moment, then jumped onto the floor, but continued staring at that exact spot on the wall. Her husband had spotted a ghost in the house before, but she only believed him after seeing this. Terrifying cat. This video was shared by a woman living in Taos, New Mexico, USA, asking viewers what could have made her cat behave this way. She came home late after a long shift and found her cats acting strangely. One of them had knocked things over all around the kitchen and was now standing there, growling angrily, as if it was not acting like itself anymore. When she moved closer to pick it up, the cat flinched at her, as if warning her not to come any nearer or she would face the consequences. Invisible intruder. A man installed CCTV cameras to watch his dog while he was away. One night, he checked the recording and saw something shocking. Around midnight, the dog was resting peacefully. Suddenly, it stood up and stared at the window, as if something was getting closer. Then the curtain moved on its own, as an invisible thing had touched it. The dog ran toward the curtain, barking and trying to catch whatever it sensed. However, nothing unusual could be seen on the video. When he shared the clip online, it left people wondering, was it a ghost or a staged video? Midnight Watcher. On the 3rd of June, 2019, a bone-chilling moment was captured by a man in Leicester, England. He woke up at midnight to drink water and froze in fear. His black cat was standing on its hind legs beside the bed, eyes glowing in the dark, staring at something he could not see right beside him. It looked terrified, as if an unseen presence was sitting right next to him. When the cat realized its owner was awake, it slowly sat down, but its eyes never left that same empty spot. Cat seeing spirit. A man had to travel for one night, so he left his cats at home and watched them through a live camera. When he later checked the footage, he was shocked. One cat was standing upright, as if something had entered the room. The table next to it shook by itself. Another cat entered with glowing eyes, tracking a faint shadow, and the door closed on its own. Even the camera moved by itself. Terrified, he rushed home to protect his cats, but when he arrived, everything seemed completely normal. Evil influence. I have never seen a video of a dog acting this strangely, and I believe you haven't either. This video was filmed by a pet store owner in Santa Fe, New Mexico, USA, when he released a dog from its cage. The dog bared its front teeth, and its eyes were wide open, as if something had taken control of it. It began moving in a jerky way from left to right. The owner was stunned, because he had been in the pet business for 30 years and had never seen anything like it before. He became convinced that his dog was under the influence of something evil. Midnight dog vision.
The dogs are ready for bed. It's just a peaceful night here.
One Saturday night, a woman living in Marfa, Texas, USA, was recording a mini vlog to show how lazy her pet dogs were, but one of them proved her wrong. Suddenly, the dog stood up, and its tail rose in the air, as if it had sensed something supernatural, and it began staring into an empty corner. Even more mysteriously, it flinched, and the woman got spooked by its behavior and lowered her phone to see what it was looking at. But nothing looked out of place, and she became convinced that her dog was seeing something invisible.
The is that? What? Oh, God!
Invisible threat.
What are you doing?
A woman was spending her vacation at her farmhouse in Nobbinway, Michigan, USA, when one morning her dog began to act bizarre. The dog stood on the table and fixed its eyes on the view outside the window, as if it was trying to keep something away. The woman felt unsettled because she couldn't see anything outside, but her dog remained alert and growling, even staying on the table without breaking its stare. This made her believe that her farmhouse was no longer a safe place to stay.
Excuse me. Hey.
Terrified dog. A woman was relaxing on the couch after making lunch when her dog made her blood run cold. The dog was sitting on its back legs, staring at the wall. What made the scene even scarier was that its entire body was shaking while it looked intently toward a chair. When she asked the dog what it was seeing, it barked, as if trying to warn her they were being watched by a phantom.
Autumn, what is it? You okay? Mama's here.
If you have any other explanation for why it was shaking, let me know in the comment section. Playing with ghost. A woman set up a motion sensor camera in her bedroom because her cat had been acting strangely for 2 days. When she watched the video, she was shocked. The cat suddenly jumped off the bed as if it were chasing something moving around it, then jumped back on, then down again, and sat on the mat. Things got creepier when the bedsheet moved on its own, and the cat leapt back onto the bed as if playing with something invisible. Then the camera showed movement to the right, and the cat ran toward the window. After seeing this, she believed a ghost was teasing her cat. Dog spotted ghost.
Losing focus. Oh my God.
9 years ago in Sedona, Arizona, USA, a man was about to sleep when his dog began acting strangely, as if sensing something in the darkness. Curious, he grabbed his camera and followed the dog downstairs. The dog stared intensely into the dark, clearly focused on something the man could not see. He called out, urging whatever was there to reveal itself, but nothing appeared.
Can you walk up my steps? I want to capture you on video, spirits.
Moments later, the dog suddenly bolted toward the unseen presence, leaving the man terrified and convinced his pet sensed something impossible to human eyes. Dog seeing ghost. This video was shared by Valeria Brown, a YouTuber living in Reno, Nevada, USA, 12 years ago, when she was making breakfast in the kitchen and her dog suddenly began barking for no reason. No one else was in the house. The dog barked non-stop, as if it had picked up something strange. It moved toward the couch, then placed its front paws on the ottoman, as if someone was sitting there. It kept pacing around the TV lounge, clearly disturbed. Valeria didn't know if it was a ghost or something even more mysterious. What do you think it was? Vanishing witch. A woman living in Ashland, Oregon, USA, was fed up with her dog barking at night, so she set up a tripod in the hallway to see what was causing it. When she watched the recording, she was stunned. At around 2 a.m., the dog started barking again, this time at a frightening figure in white, with long black hair and a distorted face, resembling a witch. As the dog leapt toward it, the figure vanished as if it had never been there. After seeing this, she became convinced that her apartment was haunted and decided to move to a new place. Cat sensing demon. On the 11th of March, 2023, a man living in Eureka Springs, Arkansas, USA, was suddenly spooked by the strange behavior of his cat. It was sitting on the couch, staring at the ceiling without blinking even once, as if it was focused on something beyond view. Then it looked toward him, as if telling him that they were being watched by an invisible entity, before turning back and continuing to stare at whatever it was. Haunted ceiling. Recently, a man living in Galena, Illinois, USA, experienced something he never expected. He was on his way to the kitchen to get some water when his dog suddenly began staring at the ceiling and barking, as if it had seen something unsettling. He recorded the strange behavior, but couldn't spot anything unusual, no matter how long he looked, and was convinced the dog was seeing something otherworldly. Later, when he shared the video on Instagram, some viewers argued it was just the bright ceiling light that caused it to bark. Kitchen ghost. 2 years ago, in Bangalore, India, a woman woke up to her dog barking loudly. Worried, she went to see what was wrong. The dog sat on the floor, staring at the kitchen and barking non-stop, its tail moving from side to side as if something was right in front of it. She called out, asking anyone there to show up, and tried to calm her pet.
Easy. Leave it. Who's there?
Deep down, she believed it was the ghost people said haunted the house, and that this was why the rent of the house was so low. Cemetery soul. A man shared a video from a visit to his late father's grave in Hilo, Hawaii. He took his dog with him because the dog had been very close to his dad. As they neared the grave, the dog suddenly became alert, as if someone was already there waiting, though only tombstones were visible. The dog growled, like it was communicating with something. On their way back, the dog did the same thing again. After this, the man believed his dog was seeing his father's soul, which only animals can sense. Spirit is back. A man living in Corpus Christi, Texas, was casually reviewing his CCTV footage when something chilling appeared on the screen. His pet cat was walking toward the couch when, suddenly, it lurched backwards in terror, as if something had suddenly pulled it back. The frightened cat bolted to the corner, and its panic immediately alerted the other cats and the dog, who rushed after her. Moments later, a chair beside the table slid on its own. Watching this, the man became certain that the restless spirit had returned, and he decided to leave the apartment for good. Unseen presence. One Sunday in Bar Harbor, Maine, a man was resting on his couch and casually filming his cat. Suddenly, the cat slowly moved around the room, staring at one specific spot on the wall, as if something was fixed in that spot. Its tail swung, and its fur stood up, clear signs of fear. The cat sat down but kept watching that exact point. Then, without warning, it stood upright like it had seen a ghost and repeated this behavior. The man became scared and started believing his house might be haunted by evil spirits. peculiar dog. This video is evidence that dogs may not only see invisible entities, but can also communicate with them. One evening, a man was lying on the couch with his dog, watching TV, when the dog suddenly stood up on the couch and began to let out low, whisper-like growls. It moved a little forward, as if it had seen something, even though nothing appeared. The dog stayed alert, fixed its gaze on one spot, and began to track something across the room with its eyes. What do you think about this? Share your thoughts in the comments section. Cat alerted owner. A woman rented an Airbnb flat in St. Augustine, Florida, and was resting on the couch after moving in. She noticed her cat staring strangely at the window, as if it had noticed something outside. Curious, she started recording and pointed the camera toward the window. To her shock, a faint figure seemed to be peeking inside at them. When she went outside to check, no one was there. This made her think something sinister might be watching them, and her cat had warned her in time. Dog's invisible friend. 2 years ago in Salem, Massachusetts, USA, a man began sensing a strange presence in his house, so he installed CCTV cameras around. On one of the cameras, he captured a shocking moment. His dog was running toward a wall as if it were chasing something moving ahead of it, but it wasn't alone. A basket on the floor was also rolling, matching the dog's speed. The dog then turned left, and the basket changed direction on its own. After watching this video, the man became convinced that his dog might be playing with a ghost. Glowing-eyed figure in Roswell, New Mexico, USA. A man was reviewing the CCTV footage of his TV lounge, which showed his pet dog sitting calmly when something creepy with thin legs, black hair, and glowing eyes appeared behind the window and tried to open the window lock. The dog immediately became alert and barked at it. Later, the man checked the area around his house, but could not find a single footprint. So he began to suspect that it might have been a ghost that had haunted this town for years. Haunting morning. One morning in Key West, Florida, a man was about to take his dogs for a walk and decided to record them. Suddenly, the dogs started barking in the same direction and slowly moved toward it. Then they turned back to look at him, as if warning him to go inside. He grew scared because he had heard stories about a witch who haunts people during the day. He thought his dogs might be seeing her, since animals may notice things humans cannot. Frightened, he quickly left the house with his dogs. Horse-seeing jinn. On the 12th of April, 2020, a man was out for a horse ride in a remote area of Aspen, Colorado, USA. At first, everything was normal, and his horse was walking peacefully while he was filming, but then the horse seemed to sense a danger that he could not see. The horse stopped, its ears alert, as if it had noticed something ahead much bigger than itself, and it refused to move any farther. So he became convinced that his horse was seeing a jinn, since they are said to have the ability to see supernatural beings, and he quickly changed his direction. Phantom alert. A man went to hunt birds that were damaging his fields in Flagstaff, Arizona, USA, when suddenly one of his guard dogs began to bark. He turned on his camera and moved it around to show the surroundings, as there was nothing in front of them that could have triggered it. Confused, he later shared the footage on Instagram, where one commenter suggested that dogs can see invisible entities, so maybe a ghost was watching over them. Strange cat. This video was filmed by a woman living in Santa Cruz, California, USA, while she was spending time with her favorite pet cat. Suddenly, the cat's behavior turned strange. It was sitting on a stool, touching the empty corner of the window, and staring at it as if it were watching its prey, but the space was empty. After a while, the cat tilted its head and sniffed the wall, as if something were hidden inside it. Its behavior left the woman puzzled, and she began to wonder if her cat might be haunted. Ceiling stare. Linda Linda Rose, a girl living in Bisbee, Arizona, USA, was doing her homework when her gray pet cat suddenly freaked her out, so she started recording. The cat was lying on the mattress with its eyes wide open, staring at the ceiling as if it were seeing something terrifying. But when she moved the camera toward the ceiling, it looked completely normal. She shared the clip on Instagram, claiming her cat was seeing a ghost, but viewers dismissed it, suggesting the cat had simply noticed tiny movements of pests, since cats have very acute senses. Reluctant dog. One night, a man told his dog to go into a room to sleep, but the dog acted very strangely. It stopped at the doorway and stared into the room, as if something was inside the room. It went in, then rushed back out and started growling at the room. When the man insisted, the dog tried again but quickly returned, clearly scared. The man became worried and decided they would not sleep in that room that night. Later, he showed the video to his neighbor, who said the house was built on a dump, which some people believe can be haunted by ghosts. Dogs sensing paranormal. 6 years ago in Mystic, Connecticut, USA, a man was checking footage from his pet camera. He saw his small dog suddenly become very alert and start barking, as if it had heard something strange. The dogs jumped onto the sofa and stared toward the window, like they were watching something move near the window. Then, a blanket on the couch slightly moved by itself, even though no one else was in the room. This scared the man. Because this place was built on an old graveyard, he started to believe that a restless spirit might be in his house. Spooky horse.
Oh, my bad.
One Sunday in Bozeman, Montana, USA, a man was filming his daughter riding her favorite horse in the paddock. Everything was normal at first, but suddenly the horse spooked and changed direction, even though the path looked clear. The horse backed away from the spot, looking at it closely from the side, as if something were blocking its path. Out of curiosity, the man shared the footage on TikTok, claiming that the horse had seen a specter. Daughter's spirit.
What is it, Zoe?
On December 15th, 2011, a man in Juneau, Alaska, filmed his dog, Zoe, acting very strangely. The dog watched something around the room with its eyes and growled, even though the room looked empty. She went to the bedroom to check, then walked into the kitchen and stared at a chair, as if something unseen was sitting there. Zoe barked at the chair, walked around the house, and then finally calmed down and sat on the floor. The man believed that Zoe was seeing the spirit of his daughter, who passed away 3 years earlier, and that she had come to visit them.
Dude, she's looking over there again. What the heck?
Spirit on the stairs. This video came from a couple living in Cody, Wyoming, USA, who were relaxing on the couch after Christmas dinner when their cat suddenly freaked out. It started staring toward the stairs, like someone was stepping down slowly. The cat watched without blinking, then began to move cautiously, step by step, and placed its front paws on the backrest, still keeping its eyes fixed on the stairs. The couple were confused because they couldn't see whatever it was watching, and a chilling thought came to their mind that maybe their cat was seeing a spirit. Cat seeing cat's soul. A man living in Charlottesville, Virginia, USA, was filming his cat, which was sitting in a strange posture on the table and staring directly at him with its eyes wide open. Suddenly, the cat began to move its head, as if it was tracking something moving with its eyes. He was shocked because he had never seen his cat act like this before, so he thought that maybe it was the soul of his other cat, which had passed away a week ago, and that its spirit had come to visit the cat it had been so attached to. Stare of fear. A woman in Bangor, Maine, USA, filmed a strange moment with her dog. The dog's mouth was slightly open and its eyes were wide, staring directly at her. It looked like the dog was reacting to something disturbing, or maybe a ghost was standing between them, because it had never acted this way before. The dog would not stop staring, so the frightened woman locked herself in a room and waited for her husband. Later, the dog acted normal again, and her husband said it had probably seen a supernatural being. Terrifying hellhound.
Luna does not like when I go to work.
A man was heading out to his office early in the morning in Savannah, Georgia, USA, when his pet hellhound suddenly began acting strangely.
I'll see you later, Peppy.
The dog did not look right at all. Its mouth was half open, exposing its teeth, as if it were seeing some ghost in him, and it refused to let him leave. It kept growling while the man tried to calm it down. Later, he shared the clip on Instagram, where one of the commenters suggested that the dog might be possessed by some invisible force. But what do you think?
I'll see you.
Invisible disturbance. A man bought a dog from a pet store and filmed it on its first day at home in Moab, Utah, USA. The dog was lying on the mat when it suddenly turned its head to the right and lifted its ear, as if it had sensed something mysterious. Then it ran toward the door and started barking at nothing visible. He was shocked because his other dog had behaved the same way. Later, he read on Google that dogs are very sensitive to electromagnetic waves, so he believed some wave had disturbed it. Invisible energy.
The cat's freaking out.
8 years ago, a woman living alone in her Napa, California apartment was terrified by her cat's strange behavior. Its fur rose and its tail curled as it stared into empty space, moving slowly, step by step, as if stalking something she could not notice. The cat refused to look away, following an invisible path across the room. Watching it, the woman felt a chill. She became certain her cat was sensing an unseen energy that had suddenly entered her home. Haunted office. A man was working alone in an office in Rapid City, South Dakota. While he was focused on his work, he suddenly heard a beeping sound from the UPS. Startled, he got up, checked the buttons, and then sat down again. A little later, he heard another strange noise, like something had fallen on its own. His heart started beating fast. He was scared, but also curious to know what was happening. There, he saw a terrifying figure, but it did not appear on the security camera. Horrified, he ran outside and never went back to that office. Haunted facility. A security guard was working a night shift in a building in Boulder, Colorado. Suddenly, he heard a strange noise from inside, so he turned on his camera and went to check. At first, everything seemed normal. But as he walked through the lobby toward one room, its door suddenly opened by itself, as if someone was inside. He knew he was alone in the building. Terrified, he went straight home. Later, he showed the video to his supervisor, who said it might be the ghost of an officer who died there.
Oh, no.
Haunted house.
Oh, bless them.
A family in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, shared scary footage from their home CCTV cameras. In the first video, they were watching TV when a glass was suddenly pulled from the man's hand and rolled across the floor. In the bedroom, a study chair moved by itself. On another camera, something unseen knocked on the door. But no one was there when the woman opened it. Later, a bowl fell from a kitchen shelf, and a wet floor sign suddenly toppled over, making the girl scream. In the study room, a chair slid to another table. These events convinced the family that their apartment was haunted. Disturbed by ghost. On July 28, 2023, a woman came home from university. As she walked in, she heard water running from a tap. She picked up the wireless CCTV camera, turned off the tap, and called her parents, but no one replied. She checked the kitchen and bathroom, and both were empty. She then turned off the tumble dryer. As she left the room, the TV in the other room turned on by itself. When she went to switch it off, the main lights suddenly went out, leaving only the Christmas lights on. As she tried to turn them back on, someone grabbed her from behind. She screamed, and the video ended, leaving everyone unsure what happened next.
For goodness sake, Mom!
Midnight possession. A woman felt a strange presence in her room for 3 nights, so she set up a CCTV camera. One night, while she slept, something invisible suddenly woke her. In the dark, an unseen force lifted her into the air by her legs and then dropped her back onto the bed. She was shocked and didn't understand what had happened. The next day, she watched the recording and was horrified. The video made her believe she might be possessed by a demon, and from then on, she never slept alone again. Open discussion. Just 2 months ago in Olympia, Washington, USA, a woman was filming her cat resting on the couch when it suddenly did something strange. The cat rose onto its hind legs, stretching its front paws into the empty air, as if it were touching something unseen. Its eyes followed an invisible trail up toward the ceiling, tracking whatever it was seeing. Nothing was there. No movement, no shadow, no sound, only the cat, locked on that spot like something was still there. Her grandfather had passed away only a week ago, and a thought crept into her mind. Could this be his spirit paying them a final visit? What would you have done if this happened? An Australian man recorded this visual in the middle of his relaxing trip to the beach that was anything but relaxing. The visuals, coupled with the sound, were enough to scare the bejesus out of the man. It even took me a couple of seconds to register it. The meteorite also caused a rupture in the sky.
What is that thing?
Falling oddities. This happened in Zhejiang, China, where tiny octopuses fell down with the rain. It had happened in 2019, but this wasn't the only time in China when something truly unexpected fell from the sky. And a year before, it literally rained fish in enormous quantities. They covered streets and rooftops. On another occasion in Liaoning, right after rain, people found thousands of worms everywhere, including their cars and sidewalks. All of these moments remain unexplained and utterly shocking. But if you have any theories, do write them in the comment section below. $2 million. When a loud bang shook a house in North Sumatra, Indonesia, a local herdsman discovered an unexpected rock embedded 6 inches into his living room floor. It was still warm to the touch, and he suspected it could be a meteorite. After taking pictures and sharing them online, experts confirmed it was indeed a rare lunar rock. He ended up selling it for a significant sum, a total of $1.8 million. Now scientists are analyzing this extraordinary find. What started as a shocking moment turned into a groundbreaking discovery for both him and the scientific community. Blue rainfall.
And it's been raining, and the water that's coming out of the sky is blue. And it's not this tarp, because it's happening on this tarp too.
In early May, parts of Texas and Louisiana experienced rainfall unlike anything locals had seen before. The water wasn't clear. It had a faint blue tint. Campers filmed droplets hitting tarps and forming puddles that shimmered in the light. Then came something even stranger. In certain spots, jelly-like, translucent blobs fell from the sky, sticking to cars, rooftops, and open fields. They felt soft, sticky, and completely out of place. Scientists had no immediate answer, and for many, the strange rain seemed less like a random event and more like the start of something no one was prepared for.
The is that?
Bird cemetery. This next one happened in September. 5 years ago, over in Bali's Gianyar Regency, a man walked into a cemetery and came across something that stopped him in his tracks. The ground was covered, literally covered, in unalive sparrows. Thousands of them, scattered like it had just rained heavily. But that's not exactly a normal reason for birds to just fall out of the sky in massive numbers. No solid cause was ever confirmed, and the whole thing left people uneasy. Sometimes nature does things that just don't add up, and this was one of them. Giant hailstones. The weather has been pretty crazy and unpredictable lately. However, on April 18th, 2024, a farmer in Beji, China, was left speechless when massive chunks of ice started crashing down from the sky. The impact was so strong it left dents in the soil. At first, it seemed impossible, but upon closer look, it was clear. These were giant hailstones. Formed by powerful updrafts in thunderstorms, these icy monsters grow to enormous sizes before finally plummeting to the ground. It's a rare and jaw-dropping reminder of how intense weather can get. Raining animals.
You'd probably be skeptical if you heard a weather forecast that called for storms with a light drizzling of fish. It sounds like a biblical plague, but it happened this week in Texas, where multiple residents reported witnessing the aquatic animals fall from the sky.
In December 2021, a storm in Texas got a lot weirder when fish started falling from the sky. They were shad, small, silvery fish landing on cars, lawns, and even rooftops. This kind of thing has happened before. 16 years ago, Australia had its own fish rain. Scientists say it's probably caused by waterspouts or strong updrafts, sucking the fish out of lakes or rivers and then dropping them somewhere else. Still, seeing it happen in front of you would make you question just how strange weather can really get.
There was a loud crack of thunder, and we opened up the bay door, and I looked outside, and it was raining real hard, and a fish hit the ground. And I said, "It's raining fish."
Unusual lightning. This farmer was taking cover from a heavy downpour when he noticed something bizarre. Strange rays of light spread across the grass, shifting in intensity and even looking like fire for a moment. Then, just as quickly as it appeared, it vanished, leaving behind a small wisp of smoke. Some folks thought it was lightning striking the ground, while others guessed it might have been an electric arc, energy jumping from the power grid to the earth. Either way, it was a wild sight he won't forget. Fish rainfall. If you've ever heard the phrase, "it's raining cats and dogs," Yasuj, Iran, took it to a whole new level because during one storm, it rained fish. In the middle of a heavy downpour, residents noticed small fish tumbling from the sky, some still moving as they hit the ground. Clips of this strange event quickly spread online, with people wondering how this could even happen. Scientists believe a waterspout likely formed over a nearby lake or river, sucked the fish into the air, and dropped them miles away. Since this phenomenon is extremely rare, scientists don't exactly know how it precisely happens. Crawling rain. If you've got arachnophobia, you might want to skip this one, because a few years ago in Brazil, the sky was basically full of spiders. And no, they weren't falling like rain. They were hanging from one massive, impossible-looking web that stretched so far up, it looked like it was coming from the clouds. Locals said it was just hunting behavior, but honestly, that doesn't make it any less terrifying. Walking down the street while hundreds, maybe thousands of eight-eyed crawlers dangle above you? Yeah, hard pass. Bird apocalypse.
Many of you will have seen on social media a video going around of an incident on Anglesey where numerous starlings have been killed. I mean, many starlings. We don't know how it's happened, but I'll show you the scene.
On December 12th, 2019, in North Wales, a woman driving along a rural road in Anglesey came across a disturbing scene. Hundreds of starlings were scattered along the roadside near the hedgerows. At first, she thought they were feeding, but as she got closer, she saw they weren't moving at all. Authorities were called, and some of the birds were collected for testing to determine what caused this sudden collapse. The cause has never been confirmed, leaving one of the most unsettling wildlife incidents in the area unexplained.
So we're just outside Bodedarn here by Llyn Lake, and as you can see on the road here, there's approximately 225 dead starling on the road itself.
Gold from sky. When something shiny falls from the sky, you'd expect it to be rain or hail, not solid gold. That's what happened in Yakutsk, Siberia, when gold bars came tumbling down near the local airport. Witnesses rushed to see what had fallen, and the reason turned out to be just as unusual as the sight itself. A cargo plane's hatch had malfunctioned during takeoff, spilling part of its load onto the runway below. Authorities moved quickly to collect the gold, but with a scene like that, it's hard to believe every last piece made it back. Fallen figure. Late at night, a family heard their dog barking wildly moments earlier. Something had dropped into the owner's backyard, which seemed to set the dog off. When they checked their security camera, they froze. The footage showed a humanoid figure with bat-like wings and sharp horns standing near the dog. The creature stayed there for a short time, then let out a loud, disturbing scream before taking off into the sky. The family was left shaken, unsure what had landed in their yard. Sky mystery. Some fishermen in Indonesia were out at sea when they spotted something bizarre falling from the sky. It was long, dark, and big enough to stand out even from a distance. It slammed into the ocean far away from their boat, making a splash but no visible debris. Whatever it was, it didn't belong up there, and after it sank beneath the waves, it stayed there, turning the whole thing into one more unsolved ocean mystery. Falling technology. Crowds gathered in Zhengzhou, China, for a bright, choreographed drone show above a shopping mall, but the night ended with a far stranger scene. After the drones formed the mall's name in the sky, some suddenly went dark and began falling, one after another, toward the crowded streets. Spectators rushed for cover as the small craft struck cars and rooftops. Now everyone was fine, but the cause of the failure was never made public. The most puzzling part, so many drones failed at the exact same moment, as if something had interfered with them all at once. Mysterious sighting. One evening at the beach, a man noticed something strange. This narrow beam of light coming straight down from the sky. He followed it with his eyes and saw it was coming from some kind of craft. The weird part? The craft almost disappeared into the background, like it was blending in with the sky itself. Then, just as suddenly as it started, the beam shut off, and the craft lifted higher and higher until it completely vanished from sight. Blackening skies. It looks like the curse of the pharaoh is back, because Russia was covered in locusts, and that wasn't the only incident. It even happened in Las Vegas, and that too just recently. Millions of these creepy crawlers invaded the streets of America, and for both incidents, the question remains unanswered. However, one thing is for sure, this is as biblical as it gets. Fallen angel. A hiker saw something coming down from above. At first, he thought it was a bird. As it fell further down, the camera picked up its shocking silhouette. It had large wings, a humanoid shape, and it was crashing down near the mountain. The location is unknown, but this was recorded sometime in the early 2000s in March. Since it fell in the mountains, the hiker could not reach that spot, which is why we don't have any other information on this strange visual. Car takeover.
Jenny, if I turn the nuclear reactor off, will they go away?
Decades ago, a family visiting the Cape of Good Hope in South Africa got the shock of their lives. They parked their car for a walk during their holiday, but when they returned, the vehicle was swarmed by giant woodlice, also known as sea slaters. The car had turned into a hotspot for these creepy crawlies. They'd seen a few of them around the beach earlier, but nothing could have prepared them for this bizarre scene. It's one of those moments where nature reminds you who's really in charge. Dark humanoid creature. A resident in Kansas City, Missouri recorded a strange video that quickly spread online. The clip shows what looks like a massive living moth. Right before filming, the cameraman said he heard a loud bang, like something had fallen from the sky nearby. When he looked up, he saw the large winged creature moving in the dark. A few viewers think it could be a strange person who might have been scaling buildings, stalking people before he or she got caught here, which would explain why this is the only video. Strange sky streak. Late one night, over Portugal, the darkness was cut by an intense green meteor blazing across the sky. The bright streak moved quickly, leaving a vivid trail that stayed for moments before vanishing. Witnesses described its size and color as unlike anything they had seen before. Many caught it on camera, while others just stood still, stunned by the rare and mysterious display. Sharks Falls in backyard. This absolutely shocking event happened in July of 2015, when a family in Virginia Beach, Virginia, discovered something completely unexpected in their backyard. A small dogfish shark, also known as a sand shark. Measuring just 13 inches long, it was far from the ocean and nowhere near its natural habitat. The most likely explanation is that a large seabird caught the shark while hunting and accidentally dropped it mid-flight. How it ended up there may have an answer, but the sight still caught everyone off guard. Fallen geese mystery. It's not often you find the sky dropping geese like rain, but shockingly, in Idaho Falls, residents saw that in April 2019, in one parking lot, dozens of birds lay scattered across the ground, all in the same area. Moments earlier, they had been flying overhead. The scene didn't have an immediate explanation. After investigation, experts suggested lightning was the likely cause. A sudden storm, combined with the flock's location in the wrong place at the wrong time, may have led to the fall. Fallen from space.
If you were awake overnight, you may have seen something strange in the night sky.
This is super weird. We've had several reports of something falling to the ground around 1 or 2 this morning. You see it here.
Back in July 2019, people saw the sky glowing with this slow-moving, fiery streak that definitely wasn't a shooting star. It drifted down in a way that almost looked controlled, and for a minute, people started joking about UFOs, or debris from the ISS. Turns out, it was something pretty wild but totally real space junk from an old Chinese satellite launched in 2015. As it re-entered Earth's atmosphere, it burned up, putting on this huge glowing display before completely disappearing.
This video was sent to us by Jonathan Carruthers. He says the objects were falling for a long time and there was nothing else in the Southwest Florida sky.
Enigmatic skyball.
As if nothing else was important in the world, if there wasn't enough going on. The sky appears to be following, at least literally, and we don't know exactly what's going on. You can see this, a post from the New York Post saying a fireball seen over the southeastern United States could have been a meteor and may more be on the way.
One sunny afternoon over Georgia and South Carolina, hundreds of people looked up and saw a streak of fire blazing across the sky. This wasn't a jet or some fireworks. It was bright, fast, and over before you knew it. More than 100 witnesses reported it, and experts say it was probably just a meteor burning up in the atmosphere. But just a meteor doesn't really capture how insane it looked. Bright enough to shock people in broad daylight? Yeah, no wonder folks are still watching the skies.
Many people sent us pictures. They sent us dash cam video really telling the story there. You can see it on your screen.
Falling money chaos.
This is the most insane thing I've ever seen. Someone dropped money all over the freeway. San Diego has shut down.
Some time ago in San Diego, California, traffic came to a dead stop. But not because of an accident, because $20 bills were literally flying through the air. An armored truck had spilled its load, and people were bailing out of their cars, grabbing as much as they could. Total mayhem. Some were stuffing bills into their jackets, others were filming on their phones. But here's the thing, police showed up, arrested a few people, and went through footage to track down the rest. So yeah, free money on the highway? Turns out it comes with strings attached and handcuffs.
They come in before we come knocking on their door and just turn the cash in.
falling serpent. So, this footage out of Montana has been making the rounds, and honestly, I get why. It shows this weird vertical object just hanging there in the sky, split into 3 sections, completely motionless. From another angle, it even looked like some massive black serpent suspended mid-air. People started throwing out theories: UFO, secret military tech, or my personal favorite, Helium Falcon, apparently the galaxy's best balloon pilot. Then another family caught something similar, except this one was cigar-shaped and leaving a smoke trail as it slowly dropped. For a second, they thought it was a plane going down, but nope, just another one of those sky mysteries that makes you question what your eyes are telling you.
Is that a plane going down?
I don't think it's a plane.
Angel or human? So, this picture got a lot of people taking, but here's the truth. People were saying it was an angel that literally fell from the sky. The face looked like an elderly person, but the body, straight up winged. The feathers weren't bright and fluffy like you'd picture. They look worn out, almost decayed, like they had aged. Turns out this was actually a rendition of A Very Old Man with Enormous Wings, showing the heavenly crash. If you've ever seen something strange fall from the sky, drop your story in the comments. Eden Project. A security camera captured a strange object appearing in the sky above a facility in the middle of the day. It was semi-transparent, but still visible in the footage. Strangely, the video got glitchy for a brief moment, like something was interfering with the camera, and then the CCTV footage ends after it enters one of the balls. Reptilian Fall.
Oh my God.
On January 22, 6 years ago, a woman in South Florida stepped into her backyard to find iguanas lying motionless on the floor. They had fallen from the tree above and looked like statues, completely still. For a moment, she thought they were lifeless. Turns out, the sudden drop in temperature had caused them to freeze up. The cold made the iguanas lose control of their muscles, leaving them completely still.
There you go. So you're not gonna get run over.
Close call. A street cleaner in London, just doing his thing near Kew Garden Station, when out of nowhere, a massive chunk of ice falls from the sky. I'm talking about a 44-pound block of ice smashing into the ground, just a few meters away from him. Turns out, it probably came from a plane flying overhead. Apparently, ice can break off when planes hit warmer air. Dude got lucky. Although he was on the other side of the street, who knows, maybe that is where he was about to go to, and it would have been a disaster. Vegas liquid mystery.
People here in the eastern part of the valley are completely perplexed over these brown, black, almost oily-looking droplets that are falling from the sky. They're everywhere. They're over all of these cars. They're over an RV in the back of the lot. They're all over this basketball court. The big question is, what are they, and why are they falling from the sky?
People in Las Vegas woke up one day to find their cars and buildings covered in this weird, greasy liquid. At first, everyone freaked out, thinking it was acid rain or something toxic. But nope, turns out it was bee poop. Yeah, you heard that right, bee excrement. Totally harmless, but still, who expects that to rain down from the sky? Just another day in Vegas, I guess.
We've reached out to the FAA, the Nevada Department of Conservation, and the State Division of Environmental Protection to get an explanation for this, and as of right now, we haven't heard back.
Dropping debris.
So that she doesn't get hit by something.
A family was out walking their dog in a park, just enjoying a calm day, when suddenly, huge metallic objects started falling from the sky. At first, they couldn't figure out what was happening, but once the debris hit the ground, they realized it was wreckage from a plane. Authorities confirmed the right engine of a Boeing 777-200 had failed after takeoff, scattering parts across yards, streets, and the park. Thankfully, no one got hurt, but it's one of those moments that makes you realize how quickly a normal day can turn into something wild.
Oh my God. Woo.
Flying entity. After a clip hit the internet showing a humanoid with massive wings soaring through the sky, rumors of angels descending spread like wildfire. However, this wasn't your typical angel. Its jagged wings gave off a more sinister vibe, almost devilish. Critics questioned its authenticity, but believers pointed to the shadow it cast while flying as proof. What do you think? Real or CGI? Outer space debris.
I was in this bedroom right here. Sounded like an explosion happening. Jumped out of bed, ran over and turned on the light and saw a hole in my roof. Flipped back the top pillow and there was the rock. It was well over 1 kilogram, so I would say that big, yeah.
Imagine sitting at home, thinking you're safe, when suddenly something smashes through your roof and lands on your bed. That's exactly what happened to one woman when a meteorite came hurtling from the sky. The rock was moving so fast, she didn't even have time to react. It tore through her ceiling and left a hole in her mattress. Scientists are now scrambling to figure out where this space rock came from, asking the public for help to track its path. It's a reminder that sometimes danger can come from the most unexpected places, like outer space. Scary flight.
An airline passenger recorded a frightening scene while taking off from Montreal on Friday. The video shows sparks and flames shooting out of the left side of the landing gear just before a wheel falls off. 52 people were on board the Air Canada Express flight. It headed back to Montreal. The pilot circled to burn off some fuel before making an emergency landing. The airline says its experienced pilots maintained complete control of the aircraft.
Passengers on United Airlines Flight 1001 got more excitement than they bargained for. The plane took off from San Francisco, but shortly after, disaster struck. A tire fell off mid-air. Despite the terrifying situation, the pilots managed to land safely in Denver, and everyone breathed a huge sigh of relief. The missing wheel was later found in Los Angeles. Officials are now investigating how something like this could happen, but one thing's for sure, it's not the kind of flight anyone wants to experience twice. Tentacle sky creature. In 2018, people in Amman, Jordan, spotted something strange drifting high above the city. At first, it looked like a trick of the camera, but once the person filming zoomed in, the details became clearer. The object was round, with several long, tentacle-like extensions hanging from its underside. It didn't move like a balloon or any aircraft known to locals. Whether it was an unusual aerial craft or something alive, its sudden appearance left more questions than answers. Mysterious ring.
It's an alien. Oh my god, look.
In the Rocky Mountains of Colorado, a resident spotted something unusual hovering high above. A glowing, ring-shaped object floated in one place, its shape so clear it almost resembled a portal hanging in the sky. It remained there for a short while before fading completely. With no clear explanation, and its appearance so close to the mountains, the sight has stayed a mystery to this day.
Oh, it's a video you're taking? Whoa, there it goes.
Weird sky trail.
Look how bright it is. Oh my gosh.
Over California one evening, a glowing streak lit up the sky, moving too slow for a meteor, yet far too fast for a plane. People stopped in their tracks, filming the strange trail as it cut across the horizon, its shape and brightness looking like something out of a science fiction movie. The official explanation was that it came from a reused SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket launching satellites into orbit. Still, with the way it appeared and the way it vanished, some couldn't help but wonder if that was the whole story.
There's stage that big back.
Massive metallic ring. On 4th April 2022, a quiet village in Maharashtra, India, suddenly had an uninvited guest, a massive metallic ring. 10 feet across and over 90 pounds, sitting in a field like it just teleported there. Locals were baffled. Turns out, it was a space junk part of a Chinese Long March rocket that survived re-entry and crash-landed right in their backyard. Imagine waking up, grabbing your morning tea, and seeing part of outer space hardware chilling in your field. Makes you wonder what other giant metal surprises are orbiting above us, waiting for their drop date. fallen bat creature. A driver took a wrong turn and ended up on a highway that had been closed for years because of long-term construction. At first, he thought he saw a normal bat sitting nearby. Then the creature flew close to his car before pulling away. In that brief moment, his camera showed something far worse. It looked like Camazotz from old Mayan stories, a bat-like being from legend. After the footage came out, the highway was officially abandoned. People said anyone who runs into it carries bad luck for life, and no one wanted to take that risk. Fallen talking bird? People in Catemaco, Mexico, shared a video that spread fast online. Residents said a strange bird had fallen from the sky near their area. When they got closer, they claimed the bird spoke while flying, which made them believe it was not a real animal. Many locals said it was a witch that could turn into a bird and had given herself away by talking. The sight scared people who saw it in person. Catemaco is already known for stories about mysticism, so this clip quickly went viral and had everyone talking about what really fell from the sky that day. Spy pigeon found. A man was feeding pigeons on a quiet street when one bird caught his attention. It looked a little off compared to the others. When he walked closer, he noticed something strange about its tail. Small chips and thin wires were visible, showing it was not a real pigeon. Shocked, he took out his phone and recorded it. The video went online, and people started guessing what it could be. Some said it was a spy pigeon. No one knew who sent it or why it was there, and the strange bird left many people uneasy about what they had just seen. Mysterious bird. The villagers panicked when a strange bird suddenly fell from the sky and crashed into the middle of their village. It hit an electric pole on the way down and appeared to damage its wings. From far away, some people thought it looked like a turkey vulture, but as more villagers got closer, they saw its face clearly and realized it did not look like any normal bird. The video shows the creature struggling for a moment, then slowly spreading its huge wings. The video, unfortunately, ends there. Now it's time for the scariest thing that fell from the sky as our open discussion of the day. In a small city in Chitradurga, India, locals were left in shock when a mysterious humanoid being fell from the sky around 1:30 p.m. on 2nd March 2026. People said the figure crashed straight through the brick roof of a house and landed inside. Neighbors ran over, and soon Indian police were seen holding the being in their hands, while others recorded from a distance. The creature had a humanoid body, ruined wings, and a yellow beak that looked like part eagle. Many locals called it a churail or a witch. Others in the town were convinced it was a shapeshifter. What made it even stranger was a circular metal ring on its feet, shaped like something you would see on a chicken's leg. People are still arguing about what it really was. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below.